Hi everyone, it's Shar. Welcome back to my channel, Craftin' Up a Storm. Today I have another in my Trifecta series for spring decor. That means I'm gonna take 3 different projects and they're gonna range from super easy all the way up to a complete repurpose. My first project, I'm gonna take an already adorable item from Dollar Tree and I'm just gonna give it a little pizzazz, a little zhuzh, all using items that I can find at Dollar Tree. The second project is going to take it up a notch and do a complete redo and make it into home decor for your home. The last project is going to take items that you wouldn't normally think of and repurpose them into some really cute spring decor, and it's so fun. So let's get crafty.
For our first project, we're going to take this already super cute carrot patch sign and we're just going to give it a little bit of oomph. I got these bottle brush carrots at Dollar Tree as well. Come in a pack of 2. So I'm going to take those, and they're really cute just as is, but I'm going to just elevate them a notch. We're going to take the raffia off the top and we're going to replace it with this foliage. This is also from Dollar Tree as well. So the raffia bow and the little raffia greenery is just glued onto a wire. So I'm just going to pull those off. I'm going to pull off the little loops. I have to cut off, I guess, the little loops of twine. And I'm going to save those because I'm going to use those later. And of course I saved everything just in case I wanted to use anything else later. But I just pulled off one stem of greenery for each carrot. And I kind of cut it in 2 so it wasn't real long. But I could put it together and make it more thick, more bushy. And I'm just going to hot glue that to the little wire at the top of the carrot. I just kind of bunched it all together and then put my hot glue on it. I have a piece of like waxed paper. It's the back of some vinyl paper. So it's kind of non-stick underneath. That way my hot glue doesn't stick down to my mat. And I just kind of stack it all together and build my little bunch, and then that's what I will glue to the wire at the top of the carrot. Very easy, but made these carrots just look a little more, gave them a little more oomph. Now I'm going to take the twine bow, and instead of the raffia bow, I don't want to use that one again. I liked the twine bow better with it. I'm just going to make a bow and glue that to the top of the carrot. And I just made a simple shoelace bow. And that's it. Glued that to the top. And then those carrots are ready. I glued those just to the sign. All I did was put a good amount of hot glue down where I wanted it. And then I kind of just took and push it down. I know it's hard to glue those bristles, but I just held it where I wanted it to be, and I pushed it down kind of flat until finally that glue solidified and held it on its own. And I just put the 2 little carrots off to the side. Now I want to add just a touch more, and I'm going to take some ribbon. I didn't have any burlap ribbon at the time. I have picked some up since then from at Dollar Tree, but I had this white, well, it's kind of a cream color ribbon. It's kind of a mesh type thick ribbon. I got it at Home Depot in their tiny craft section. But I just made a loop for a simple bow, and then I took a piece of wire and twisted it around the middle. I just made sure to make that wire good and tight so it held that bow good. And then I turned the end of that wire in and pinched it shut. That's going to go at the top of the sign. I also have some orange gingham ribbon. I did get this one at Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to do a simple shoelace bow to put on the top to hide that wire. And I'll cut those ends even and put a little dovetail on the ends of them. And there's our sign. Very easy, just zhuzhed it up a bit. This project's going to be a redo. I'm going to use this styrofoam bunny from Dollar Tree. And I'm going to make it look completely different. It'll still look like a bunny, but it's going to have a very different texture. I'm going to go in really thick with some elephant chalk paint mixed with a good amount of baking soda. This is going to give me a lot of texture to this bunny, and I want to go for a stone look. I want it to look like a garden bunny. So I cannot tell you exactly the mixture that I used for the paint and the baking soda. I just made it to where it was almost a batter. It was pretty thick, and I'm having to put it on with a large brush and just kind of clump it. I'm just allowing a lot of that good texture to come through, and just get some really good heaps of it on there. I want to cover all that styrofoam up, and I want to make sure it has a lot of thickness and grit to it. I did add just a little bit of water, and you can kind of just keep playing with the texture. It was getting a little too difficult to spread around, so I added some water to it. Now you can see it's a lot easier. And I just go in with a couple layers of this thick paint mixture, because I want to cover all of that. That styrofoam kind of has a its own texture and seams to it, and I want to cover all of that up. I went in with a smaller brush for some of the smaller areas, like underneath the ears, but I just kept laying down layer after layer until I got the texture that I wanted from it. And I'm kind of just not brushing, but stippling the brush onto it. That's going to give it that texture as well too from the bristles. So I'm putting it on and then kind of pouncing that brush into it. I believe it's called stippling, and getting some good brush texture with it as well. I let that dry in between each coat. Now I've got it pretty well covered, and I just put a little handle on it so it was easier for me to hold and brush and paint. Now I'm going to go in with this lighter gray chalk paint. Just want to add some texture to it, and I'm going in even with now a darker, and I kind of just keep building up those layers, the light color and the dark color and the light color and the dark color, until I get a good mixture of both. Bring out that roughness in that first layer of paint. I'm going to now go in with some moss from Dollar Tree. And I just want to go around the neck of the bunny. I'm going to put down my hot glue, and then I'm really going to stick that moss down to my hot glue. And once I have it down and in there, I can trim it. So I'm not real worried for the first step, just getting it stuck. I'm going to give this bunny a moss necklace. And because he's a solid 3D piece, I just go around the whole neck. Keep putting that moss down until I have the amount that looks good. And then I can go back in and trim it up. I'm using a sharp tool to go in under the ears. Now I have these flowers from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to snip those off with some of the greenery, and I'm going to use that on top of the moss. And it was easier to cut these flowers completely apart and just use the individual blooms. They just didn't lay right if I left them together. I think the very end I could leave together. It was short enough, but they kind of are together at an angle, and one of them just Leaving it all together just didn't work. So clip it apart as much as you need to. I could have clipped them all individually too and glued them on. And I just kept adding flowers until I had where I wanted around my bunny's neck, growing out of the moss. Adding a few leaves as I go. I kind of cut the leaves down. They were just too long and too big. So if I did use a leaf, I would cut it down, trying to keep it in a semi-leaf shape. And that's our bunny. A couple more leaves and that'll do it. Very inexpensive, very easy project. Looks a lot different. For this project, I am going to take this laundry basket and make it into something completely different. A total repurpose. I'm also using a pool noodle. And I have to say I got this idea from Bargain Bethany, and I'll link her video in my description. I also have some ribbon from Dollar Tree. It's a brand new roll. I think I used absolutely all of it and maybe then some. I think I bought a couple of rolls. But I'm going to take and link, I'm going to loop one of them in, and I'm just going to see about how much it takes to go around the basket and cut my piece. And then I'm going to go back through and I'm going to weave in and out. You don't have to, you can just simply wrap it around the basket. It's up to you. I am going to weave in and out every other section. And this ribbon is just about the perfect length or width to fit in this basket. And I just did over and under and over and under all the way around. And when I got to the end, because this ribbon has some wire in it, all I did was bend it over. And tucked it back in. I started each section in the same area so that then if I did have what looked like a seam, it was all on one side and I can turn it to the back of my basket. I just tucked it back underneath. And that's it. I did that to all the sections. On the next section, wherever I had gone under, I went over just to have that weave pattern look to it. And then I did the same thing to the very top section. And I just made a giant Easter basket. This is very simple. And then once Easter and spring is over, I can take this ribbon right back out and use the laundry basket. I just tucked it right in there. And folded it over. Now I'm going to take my pool noodle, and that is going to be my handles. Now looking back, I wish I had lifted it up higher so that that handle stood up better. I put it all the way down to the bottom. Now I'm taking zip ties, and I'm just going to take those zip ties, and I only had black zip ties that were long enough to go in the basket, but it really doesn't matter because I tucked it behind that ribbon. See, I'm showing you just behind the ribbon. You can't even see the zip tie. But I wish I had lifted it up so that it was a lot higher. Looking back, I would have liked to have a higher handle on it. Now I'm going to wrap the handle in the same ribbon so that everything's cohesive. And I think this is where I ran out of that first spool of ribbon, and I had another spool with a little left, and I was able to just piece those together. And I ended up just taping it and then starting the new piece and taping it. I used green tape. It's the same color as the pool noodle, but I wrapped over the top of it. You couldn't see it. It doesn't quite go all the way down the handle, but I'm going to put a big bow on it. So I have this mesh ribbon from Dollar Tree as well, and that's what I'm going to make a nice big bow. And I just make several loops. It's a little tricky to work with, I noticed, because it keeps wanting to stick together, but I just made several great big loops and pinched them in the middle, and I took another zip tie and tightened it around the middle. I cut one end off to be one tail, and then I just cut another piece to add a second tail. And that's the big bow that will be on the side, and it'll cover up that piece of the handle that doesn't have ribbon. And I just looped another zip tie in between that zip tie that I had used in the middle and tied it to the side. And there's a nice, great big basket. It's super cute. It's really lightweight and cute. It'd be cute to give to have a child use, but I put it on the front porch with some nice spring flowers in it. This is where you can't see the handle as much. I wish I had raised it up a bit, and I just stuck a Dollar Tree metal plant stake in it, and it worked out cute. I hope you enjoyed these projects today as much as I enjoyed making them and bringing them to you. If you would like to see more of these type of videos, let me know in the comments. Consider giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel. I'd love to have you as part of the community. Thank you, and as always, keep crafting. Bye-bye.